Welcome back to Wild Weekend Adventures. I'm your host, Byron Goggin. Now, when you think of Reno, Nevada, you generally think of two things: casinos and retirement villages. But if you take the time to get off the beaten path and jump on an ATV and explore the desert trails, you'll find that this barren desert isn't actually as dead as what you'd think. It's actually full of life.
Dead and barren, yes, but it's really cool at the same time. You got some plant life, but I think all the rock structures and everything else that have just come naturally are so neat to look at that you don't notice that there's not a whole lot of plant life, you know.
Wherever you look, there's something to be amazed at. It really is beautiful. You just feel like you're one with the earth, and you can feel the spirit of the land.
The desert's definitely not dead or barren. I mean, everywhere you go, there's a little bit of life in different places, especially out here. We've seen a lot of wildlife. We've seen some rabbits. There's even antelope out here. And on top of it, there's a lot of greenery and shrubbery, and you can kind of power through and around some of the stuff on the trails. It's a good time out in the desert, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's a dead landscape. There's no doubt.
There's a lot of life. I'm looking for snakes. I've heard they're out there, but I haven't seen any, which for some is a good thing, for others isn't. Definitely, it's beautiful. It's hot and sunny, but I'm comfortable. I don't think people need to be afraid of the desert because of that. I was a little intimidated at first and realized this is the place to come.
Polaris invited the entire Wild Weekend crew to the Nevada desert just outside of Reno to take a ride on one of their new model ATVs. For the most of us, desert riding was a whole new experience.
Desert riding is a lot different than riding what you'd find in the eastern U.S. or in northern states like Michigan, Minnesota. Typically there you're winding through the trees back and forth quite a bit. You know, like a lot of tight technical stuff, stream crossings. Desert racing really has very little of that. A lot of it's very open on lands in the U.S. that are owned and operated by the BLM, Bureau of Land Management. And a lot of it is kind of fast, dry, dusty, whoops. It's fun though, you know, kind of blasting through the desert on that, and you have very long views, which is kind of cool. You crest the hill, you can see for a long distance. It's pretty cool if you've never done it.
Country of the big sky. You really feel it when you're riding around here out on top of the mountains like this?
You do feel like it's big sky country here. And it's because there's nothing really to close you in. You can have these huge long vistas, these views that go on forever until it just gets hazy in the mountains in the distance, and it's cool. It's not like riding in the north at all, and in fact, I heard the oddest comment from a guy today who had been to Michigan riding there a couple times, and he said he felt claustrophobic because of all the trees. And I suppose he would feel that anywhere in the eastern U.S. or the northern states because they're so heavily forested. But here it's easy to see why they call it big sky country, and I love it. It goes on forever.
Let's get started. Don't quit, I don't stop. Don't quit, I don't stop. Don't quit. Let's get started.
The scenery in the desert is breathtaking in more ways than one. If you plan on riding through any desert, make sure that you have a good pair of goggles and something to place over your mouth, because the dust can be, well, somewhat choking.
When you're riding in the desert, dust does get to be a very big issue, and it doesn't take long. The more people you have, the more pronounced the effect is. So you end up either riding close, somebody right next to them, or far back so you can see.
Now, if you don't want to eat dust for the entire ride, there is a simple but somewhat sneaky solution.
Oftentimes I have kind of snuck to the front of the line, and yeah, you will throw some dust on people, but it's part of the riding experience.
Dust aside, what made a ride like this fantastic was the advancement in the ATV technology. 2-up ATVs are a staple in Polaris's new lineup, making it possible for you to bring along a passenger.
Polaris is trying to sculpt a 2-up ATV that will, accommodate 2 passengers comfortably. And that's what these new touring models will do. The rear seat sits a little higher, it has a little bit more cushion, a better backrest, it has adjustable footrests and 3 different hand places to hold on to. So it looks like they're trying to really hit all sorts of shapes and sizes for that rear seat.
I've never rode on an ATV with the back like this, so that made me feel a lot more safe.
Riding this vehicle was a truly unique experience because the center of gravity looked like it was going to be a little bit higher, the seats up a little higher, but it wasn't tippy. It was really comfortable. Being able to look over the shoulder of the driver was refreshing.
Advancements like these have transformed the entire sport into an adventure that's attainable to the entire family.
Back about 10 years ago, a lot of people just like go out mudding with their buddies, but now you can take a whole family because there's an ATV for everybody. And on top of that, there's 2-up ATVs like the one I have behind myself here that can accommodate a family, a teenager on the back, a wife, or even have a wife drive and a husband sit on back if someone wants to do that.
The idea that I can be less concerned about the terrain and have more concern about where I'm going and how I'm going to get there will definitely make me feel safer as a woman and not big in stature. Being able to handle something the size of this, all those added together with the features will definitely make me want to be the rider instead of just the passenger.
Coming up next, you remember those spaghetti westerns that you used to watch on a black and white TV as a kid? Well, desert ATVing can certainly transport you back to that place and time.
Get off the couch, pull your family away from the computer, and enjoy adventures that the outdoors has to offer. Wild Weekend Adventures will be right back.